Hi mga kawangmat, in this video we will discuss illustrating triangle congruence. Our objectives, we will discuss the idea of congruence. We will use the properties of congruence in identifying congruent parts and congruent triangles. And also we will illustrate triangle congruence. So let's start. Let's have first an activity. So I want you to place the numbered tangram pieces to complete the puzzle. So, itong mga numbered na tangram pieces natin, saan kaya ng part ng puzzle siya dapat ilagay? Okay? So, pwede nyong gawin sa inyong mga pwesto. Gawa kayo kahit na, o kaya yung number, ilagay nyo lang dito magsulat lang kayo ng number. So, try nating sagutan kahit na nasa bahay tayo at nakikinig. Okay, so let's start. So, ito po si number 1, number 2, number 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. From this activity, so what's the main idea of this activity? Okay. Ano kayang meron dito sa activity na to? Paano siya natin na-solve? O paano natin nabuo yung puzzle? So, the player, at ikaw yun, so the player searches for the tangram piece that is exactly similar to the space on the board. Or, halimbawa, itong si angle 1, so nakita nyo na yung blue na triangle ay parang ka-size niya, kasukat nitong part na to ng puzzle. Kaya dito nyo siya nilagay. At ang tawag natin doon, congruent. Okay? So, hinanap natin yung mga tangram pieces na exactly similar to the space on the board or that is congruent to it. So, what do we mean by congruence? Okay. So, congruence means having the same shape and size. So, kapag nakita ninyo na pareho ng shape, pareho ng size, ibig sabihin, they are congruent. So, that's what we mean by congruency. Okay? So, it is denoted by the symbol. So, pag may nakita tayo na equal sign, tapos may alon sa taas, that is the symbol for congruency. So, ibig sabihin, hindi natin pwedeng tawagin na congruent sila kung hindi sila equal. That's why we have the equal symbol here. Okay? So, the top part of the symbol, yung parang alon, is the sign for similarity and it indicates the same shape. So, kapag pareho sila, ayun po yung, kaya ito ang symbol natin for congruent. Kasi itong alon na to, yung parang alon, that symbolizes similarity and indicates the same shape. While the bottom part, ito yung equal sign, it is the sign of equality. Ibig sabihin, same yung measures nila and indicates the same size. So, ibig sabihin, ang congruent po ay, ibig sabihin yan, similar ang shape, pareho ang size, equal sila. Okay? So, yun po ang ibig sabihin ng congruent. Now, did you know that the idea of congruence is actually used in some objects like, eto, yung paper bills and coins, yung duplicate keys, yung set of silverwares o yung mga spoon and fork natin. So, can you see how the idea of congruence is used in the mass production of various products? So, yung idea ng congruence, hindi lang yan sa math. Okay? Ginagamit rin ang idea ng congruence sa paggawa o yung mass production ng iba't ibang produkto. Halimbawa, yung paggawa ng pera, yung paper bills natin. Kung mapapansin ninyo, pare-pareho yan. Okay? Same shape, same size. Okay? So, they are congruent, yung mga paper bills natin. As well as yung coins natin with the same denominations. Again ha, with the same denomination. So, yung mga piso, yung pare-parehong piso, pare-pareho ng sukat yan. Yung pare-parehong 25 centavo, pare-pareho rin ng sukat yan. They are all congruent. Okay? And then, pag nagpapaduplicate tayo ng keys, hindi yan gagana doon sa, kung ikaw nagpa-duplicate ka ng susi, hindi yan gagana doon sa knob kung hindi yan kapareho ng original na susi o na key. Okay? Kaya nga siya tinawag na duplicate. So, ibig sabihin, pag nagpapaduplicate tayo ng key, ina-apply din doon yung idea of congruence. As well as, pag bumili si nanay ng set of yung mga pinggan, 'di ba? Meron doon set ng spoon and fork. So, yung mga spoons doon pare-pareho yan. They are all congruent. Okay. So, hindi lang sa math ginagamit ang idea ng congruence. Ina-apply din natin ito sa mass production of various products. So, the idea of congruence always helps to recognize congruent figures. So, ito naman sa math naman to. In the same orientation. So, when two figures are congruent, you may slide, flip, or rotate the figures until they overlap exactly. So, ito ang gagawin natin mamaya. Para ma-check natin kung congruent sila, dapat pag nag-overlap sila, saktong-sakto, parehong-pareho. Okay? Kasi sabi, same shape po dapat sila. Yun ang idea ng congruent. Same shape, same size. So, mamaya ia-apply natin itong slide, flip, or rotate. So, let's talk about the properties of triangle congruence. So, before we proceed to the correspondence, okay, let's have first the properties. So, ano ba itong mga properties na to? Okay, so the properties of equality as well as the properties of congruence that follow from them are often used in doing formal geometric proof. So, etong properties na i-encounter na natin to sa iba't ibang parts ng lessons in mathematics. Sa properties of equality, meron ding properties of inequality. Marami tayong properties na ina-apply natin siya. Yun nga lang, iba-iba ang gamit. Okay? So, we have the reflexive property of congruence. So, familiar kayo dito sa reflexive property. The symmetric property of congruence and transitive property of congruence. So, ano po ba itong tatlo? When we are applying it into triangle congruence. So, ito po ay properties of triangle congruence. So, ito po siya. So, under reflexive property of congruence, we have angle A is congruent to angle A. So, kapag reflexive property, as you can see, pareho sila. Okay? So, segment AB is congruent to segment AB. So, they are exactly the same. So, ito po yung reflexive property. Next, when we say symmetric property of congruence, ito naman po yung, let's say, if angle A is congruent to angle B, then angle B is congruent to angle A. So, ito naman parang if 1 is congruent to angle 2, therefore angle 2 is congruent to angle 1. Ganon din po yun. Another, if segment AB is congruent to segment CD, therefore segment CD is congruent to segment AB. So, that is symmetric. Pinagpapalit lang natin, but it doesn't changes the congruency. Next, when we say transitive property of congruence, ito naman po yung if angle A is congruent to angle B and angle B is congruent to angle C. So, since pareho silang congruent kay angle B, therefore, itong dalawa congruent din. Kaya, then, angle A is congruent to angle C. Okay, ganun din po sa segments. If segment AB is congruent to segment CD, and segment CD is congruent to segment EF, so congruent, pareho silang congruent sa segment CD, so ibig sabihin itong dalawa ay congruent din. Then, segment AB is congruent to segment EF. Okay, so tingnan nyo yung pattern. Pag reflexive property, isa lang siya. Pag symmetric property, dalawa na po. Kapag transitive property, we have 3 sets. Okay? So, this is the difference between reflexive, symmetric, and transitive property of congruence. So, let's try. So identify the properties and definition of terms that can justify each of the following statements based on the given facts. So meron tayo ditong given that B is the midpoint of segment AC. When we say midpoint, siya yung pinakagitna. Okay? So siya yung pinakagitna. So kung siya yung pinakagitna, hinahati niya, ang trabaho niya is hinahati niya yung segment into two congruent segments. Okay? Kasi midpoint, siya yung pinakagitna. Okay? I-drawing natin yung figure. So, meron tayo ditong, okay, point A and point C. So, this is your segment AC. Okay, kasi kailangan meron tayong segment AC. So, this is your segment AC. So, B daw is the midpoint of segment AC. Okay? So, B is the midpoint of segment AC. So, ibig sabihin, dito siya, pinakagitna. So, ito siya. This is your point B. Now, based rin dito sa given natin, si BC, ito raw pong si BC, is congruent to segment C. D, asa ng D. Okay? So, magkakreate tayo ng isa pang point. Now, ang sabi, since si BC ay congruent kay CD, dapat kapareho nito yung sukat niya kasi congruent. So, ibig sabihin, dito natin ilalagay si point D. Okay? So, BC is congruent to CD. Okay, so let us complete the table. So, our first given, segment AB is congruent to segment BC. So, segment AB is congruent to segment BC, and this is Y. Okay, bakit? Because B is the midpoint. So, sabi ko nga, kung may midpoint, ibig sabihin, we can say that segment AB is congruent to segment BC. So, the reason is definition of midpoint. Okay? So, masasabi lang natin na congruent sila kapag midpoint si B. Okay, next. So, segment AB is congruent to segment AB. So, anong property ito based dun sa discuss natin kanina? So, this is reflexive property of congruence. Next. CD, segment CD, is congruent to segment BC. So, based dito sa given natin, BC is congruent to segment CD. Then, CD is congruent to segment BC. Binaliktad lang natin siya. So, that is symmetric. Okay? Next. Segment AB is congruent to segment CD. So, based dito sa mga statements mo, sabi kanina, segment AB is congruent to segment BC. And then, segment CD is also congruent to segment BC. So, kung itong dalawa kung si segment BC ay parehong congruent kay AB at kay CD, therefore, segment AB is congruent to segment CD kasi pareho silang congruent kay BC. Okay? So, ano ito? This is transitive property of congruence. Okay, so let's proceed to the parts of a triangle. So, why do we need to discuss the properties? Kasi magagamit po natin siya dito. Okay? So, parts of a triangle. So, pag sinabi nating parts of a triangle, in geometry, a triangle is a closed two-dimensional shape with three straight sides and it is also a polygon. Okay? So, a triangle has three sides, three vertices, and three angles. So, para masabi natin triangle siya, dapat meron siyang three vertices, three sides, and three angles. Okay. So, isa-isahin natin yon. So, hanapin natin alin ba dito ang sides, angles, and vertices of a triangle. Okay, pag sinabi nating sides of a triangle, so we have three sides of a triangle. So, we have side AB, side BC, and side AC. Or pwede rin namang segment AB, BC, and AC. Okay. For the angles, we have three angles. We have angle A, angle B, and angle C. And then for vertices, pag sinabi nating vertices, ito yung point. Okay? Ito siya. So, we have point A, point B, and point C. So, those are the vertices. Now, how do we name a triangle? Paano ba natin pinapangalanan ang triangle? Using its vertices. So, ano-ano ba yung mga vertices ng triangle natin? We have point A, point B, point C. So, therefore, this triangle is named as triangle ABC. Pwede ba siyang tawaging triangle ACB? Yes. Okay. Pwede ba siya tawaging triangle BAC? Pwede rin po. Kasi ang sabi, to name an angle, we are using those three vertices. Okay, so kahit ano naman po dyan, ACB, this is triangle ABC, triangle CBA, kahit ano po doon. Okay, let's talk about correspondence. Okay, so speaking mathematically, the symbol for correspondence 2 is this one. Ito yung meron siyang dalawang arrowheads. Okay, so yun po ang symbol ng correspondence natin. So, ibig sabihin yan, it corresponds to, yun po ang basa dyan, pag meron tayong ganitong symbol. Okay, so halimbawa, segment AB corresponds to segment DE. So, dito, line segment AB corresponds to line segment DE. So, ayan po siya. Another, this is read as angle A corresponds to angle D. So, dapat alam natin kung paano po babasahin ang symbol na to. Now, malilito ba kayo kung etong symbol na to ay basahin nating line? So, angle A is line to angle B. Hindi po. Bakit? Kasi po ito, kung line ito, dapat dito siya sa taas nakalagay. Okay, but since nandito siya in between two angles or in between two segments, ibig sabihin this symbol is referring to correspondence. Okay? Kung nandito yan sa taas, that means align. Okay. So, I have here two triangles. Now, these two triangles, triangle ABC, is congruent daw po to triangle DEF. Okay, which also corresponds that triangle ABC in symbol is congruent to triangle DEF. Now, paano ba natin malalaman that these two triangles are congruent? Okay, so dito natin ipapasok yung magro-rotate tayo. So, kailangan i-rotate natin siya, or if you want, you may flip, you may slide, pwede rin po yun. So, ako, ang gagamitin natin, ako, i-rotate ko siya hanggang sa mag-overlap sila. Okay. Kailangan ma-prove natin na these two triangles are congruent. So, paano natin malalaman na congruent sila? Okay. So, i-flip natin hanggang sa mag-overlap. Okay. So, malapit na. So, eto na po, and that's it. Okay. So, we have now triangle ABC and triangle DEF. Okay. Now, paano ba natin masasabi that these two triangles are congruent? Dito papasok yung idea ng correspondence. Okay? We have to map. So, kailangan alam nyo mag-mapping. Pag sinabing mapping, kukunin natin yung corresponding angles and corresponding sides niya. Okay. So, pag sinabi nating mapping, triangle ABC can be mapped to triangle DEF. How? Using the idea of correspondence. So, kunin natin yung corresponding angles. So, angle A corresponds to angle D. Since na-overlap na natin siya, ni-rotate natin, tapos nag-overlap, same size na siya, same shape, so makikita na natin yung corresponding angles. So, angle A corresponds to angle D. Next, angle B corresponds to angle E. And angle C corresponds to angle F. Okay? So, mas madaling makita kapag yung triangles mo nakaayos. Okay? Madali mong makikita yung corresponding angles as well as the corresponding sides. So, kunin natin yung mga corresponding sides. So, ang corresponding sides natin, segment AB is congruent to segment DE. Okay? Importante po yung arrangement po ng ating vertices. Okay? Yung mga points na yan. Next, segment BC is congruent to segment EF. Okay? And then segment EC is congruent to segment DF. Ayun po siya. So, these are the three corresponding angles and these are the three corresponding sides. Now, why do we need? Bakit kailangan nating tingnan o hanapin yung corresponding angles and corresponding sides niya? Why it is important? Okay? Because two triangles are congruent if and only if all of their corresponding parts are congruent. Okay? So, kapag masasabi lang natin na congruent sila kapag yung corresponding parts nila are also congruent. Kaya kanina, in-identify natin yung mga corresponding angles and corresponding sides. So, that way, we can say that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Okay? So, dito papasok yung idea ng CPCTC that corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay? So, anong ibig sabihin nito? Kapag meron ka daw congruent triangles, ang corresponding parts nun congruent din. So, si angle A congruent kay angle D. Okay? And then si angle B congruent kay angle E, si angle C congruent kay angle F, as well as segment AB congruent kay side segment DE. So, ganun din po dito sa iba. So, kapag congruent yung dalawang triangles po natin, congruent din po yung corresponding angles and corresponding sides. At yun po yung sinasabi na corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, so ang tawag po natin dito, this is what we call the congruence statement. Now, what if I have triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EDF? Is this correct? No. So, dito papasok yung corresponding angles and sides. Kaya natin tinitingnan yung corresponding angles and sides, kaya tayo nagro-rotate and then chine-check natin yung overlapping ng ating triangles. Why? Kasi dito po, ito po ang magsasabi niyan. Kung i-check ninyo ito, si angle A corresponds to angle E, and that is wrong. Based dito sa ating nakuha, angle A corresponds to angle D. So, ito siya. Angle A corresponds to angle D, and then si angle B corresponds to angle D. Pero dito, ang angle E siya. So, kaya hindi po pwede na importante po dito yung arrangement ng letters ninyo. So, hindi po pwedeng triangle ABC is congruent to triangle EDF. Hindi po pwedeng ganon. Okay? So, dun po tayo magkakamali. So, importante po yung corresponding angles and sides. That's why, kapag ito po ang congruent statement mo, mali po siya. So, balikan po natin yung congruent angles and sides. Actually, dito mo siya titingnan eh. Kung ito yung first angle mo, correspond siya doon. Ito, correspond siya doon. And this one, correspond siya dito. Okay? Kaya si AB, itong magkasunod, segment AB, correspond siya kay segment DE. Diyan nyo rin siya makikita. Okay. Now, show that the two triangles are congruent. So, hindi lang basta slide, flip, or rotate ang pwede nyong gawin para malaman natin that the triangles are congruent. So, minsan, present po dito yung mga markings. Okay? Ano ba tong mga markings na to? So, itong mga markings na to, ang magsasabi sa atin na ang triangles natin ay congruent. Okay, so paano po? So, ito pong markings na to, since single mark po sila, ibig sabihin, etong sides na to, congruent. Ito, 3 markings, congruent siya doon. Ito, congruent siya doon. Okay? And then, pagdating naman po sa angle, since isa lang po yung arc natin dito, ibig sabihin, congruent siya dito. And then, ito, dalawa, congruent siya dito. Okay, so, ang mga markings po, nakakatulong din po yan. Kung present siya ha, kung present siya, pwede nyo na po yang gawin as your guide in identifying corresponding angles and corresponding sides. So, kahit hindi na kayo mag-flip, mag-rotate, o mag-slide. Okay? So, para malaman natin ang corresponding angles dito, you can make use of the markings. So, angle C corresponds to, eto, angle D. Okay? And then next, angle A, yung itong angle na to, corresponds to angle O. And then angle T, itong may isang mark, corresponds to angle G. Okay, punta tayo sa corresponding sides. Segment CA corresponds to segment DO. Okay, bakit ganon? C na una, pagdating dito, D ang inuna ko. Okay, hindi ba OD? Okay, kung titingnan ninyo, nandito yung may angle na may dalawang marking. So, dito ka nag-start, dito ka rin mag-start. So, DO. Okay, so, kaya yung markings na yan, nakakatulong po yan sa atin. So, since dito ka nag-start, CA, so DO rin po tayo dito. Okay, next. So, we have segment AT. AT corresponds to segment OG. Okay, and segment CT corresponds to segment DG. Okay, so paano nyo malalaman? Nag-start siya dito, papunta dun sa may isang marking, so CT. Ganun din dito, dun sa dalawa, papunta dun sa isang markings, DG. Okay, so importante po yung arrangement po ng ating letters. So what is our congruent statement here? Okay, so nakuha mo na yung corresponding angles and corresponding sides. Pwede ka nang tumingin dito. Triangle CAT, okay, is congruent to triangle DOG. Or triangle DOG is congruent to triangle CAT. Okay, paano nyo to nakuha? Nag-base ka lang dito sa mga correspondence mo dun sa corresponding angles and corresponding sides. So, madaling makukuha yung congruent statement kung tama po ang inyong corresponding angles and corresponding sides. So, pwede mo i-check. CA, ito si CA, yung first two. So, dapat first two rin, DO. So, ayun po siya. AT, yung last two. So, last two rin, OG. And then CT, yung first and last, DG, first and last din. Okay, so mache-check nyo po yan doon. So, importante po yung arrangement ng ating letters ha. Hindi porket congruent triangle sila, kahit mag-rumble-rumble yung letters natin, okay na. Hindi po. That's why we have yung idea ng triangle congruence and correspondence. Okay, or pwede mo rin siyang i-rotate. Okay, so yung kanina, pinakita ko, gumamit tayo ng markings. Ito naman, pwede mo siya i-rotate. So, i-rotate natin. Okay, so ganun pa rin po yan. Okay, so corresponding angles niya and corresponding sides, yun pa rin po siya. Okay, so i-ano mo man, gumamit man tayo ng markings or kung present man yung markings, mas madali. Okay? Or kung hindi, pwede mo siya i-flip, i-rotate, or i-slide. Okay? So, eto rin po yung kanina. So, tatandaan that two triangles are congruent if and only if all of their corresponding parts are congruent. So, dito po papasok yung CPCTC that corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So, ito rin po yung kanina na triangle DOG is congruent to triangle CAT. Okay, let's try. So, which pairs of figures are congruent by inspection? So, by just looking at the figures, tingnan nyo mabuti, alin dito yung congruent? Okay, so pwede nyo po ituro para matry nyo na rin. Tingnan nyo kung malinaw ang mata sa pagtingin ng mga shapes or figures na congruent. So, we have this. Okay, so these 4 sets of figures are congruent. So, iba-iba lang siya ng position, pero they are congruent. So, kagaya nga ng ginawa natin kanina, you may flip, you may rotate, you may slide, hanggang sa mag-overlap sila. Another. So, complete the congruence statement. Okay, so meron tayo ditong triangle MAN, triangle RED, triangle LAN, triangle RKI. So, take note ha, be careful in writing the name of the triangle. Dapat corresponding siya dun sa first triangle mo. Okay, so let's answer. So, triangle MAN, ito po ang titingnan, ay may single mark. So, dapat dun ka rin mag-start, dun sa single mark. So, ang sagot dito is triangle DEN. Okay? Next. Triangle LAN. So, ibig sabihin dito, dun ka rin mag-start. So, LEI. Next. Triangle RED. So, RED. Okay? So, paano dito? Pwede bang GD R. Okay, so kung mapapansin nyo, nag-start siya dun sa double markings papunta sa single mark. So, ganun din po ang gawin natin. D, G, R. Papunta dun sa single mark. Okay. Next, RKI, RKI. And then, so, ibig sabihin, dinaanan niya po itong, nauna yung single mark natin. So, C, Y, I. Okay. So, again ha, take note po, dapat hindi po pwedeng mag-rumble-rumble yung ating vertices when we are naming a triangle, or especially kapag congruent statement po. Kung halimbawa, ito lang yung triangle mo, ininame mo lang siya, pwedeng mag-rumble-rumble yun kung ininame mo lang naman. But since we are talking about congruent statement, so dapat yung ibibigay mong name niya ay congruent dun sa first triangle. Okay? Let's have another. So, I have here triangle MAN and triangle DEN, congruent to each other. Now, name the corresponding part of each of the following. So, ito po yung parts ng mga triangles natin. So, given angle M corresponds to, so this is your angle M. Paano sabi ko kapag markings ang given, pag present ang markings, yun lang din ang susundan natin. Okay, so since 3 yung markings mo dyan, doon ka rin sa 3. So that corresponds to angle D. Or simply, ito po ang pinaka shortcut niyan. Okay, so dito ka lang tumingin sa mismong name nila. Tinuro ko kanina to. Okay? So, angle M is congruent to angle D. Okay? Next. Angle E. So, ito si angle E. Nasa gitna. So, angle E is congruent to gitna din. Angle A. Okay? So, pwede kang tumingin sa figure. Pwede namang nandito na mismo yung sagot. Next. Angle E and D. So, E and D. So, ganun din dito. A and M. Okay? So, kung titingnan natin yung figure, E and D. Dapat masanay rin po tayong gumamit ng figure. So, dito ka rin mag-start. A and M. Okay? Next. Segment AN. So, ito si AN. So, as you can see, meron tayong marks dito na dalawa. So, ibig sabihin, ang kapareho niya, ito rin. So, segment EN. Or, i-check mo dito, eto si AN, so, dito rin, EN. Last two. Okay? Next, angle MAN. M-A-N. So, nag-start siya dito sa may 3 markings. So, dito ka rin. D-E-N. Okay. So, eto rin siya mismo. So, angle M-A-N. So, angle D-E-N. Next, segment ND. So, segment ND. So, dito ka rin mag-start. Segment NM. Next, angle D. This is your angle D with 3 markings. So, ito, angle M naman siya. Correspond siya sa angle M. Next, segment MN. So, your segment MN, ito siya. Yung may 3 thick lines. So, dito ka rin sa may 3 thick lines. So, segment DN. Okay? Next, segment NE. Segment NE, ito yung segment NE natin with 2 thick lines. So, segment NA naman dito sa isang triangle. So, segment NE corresponds to segment NA. And then, segment DN. So, ito si DN. DN corresponds to segment MN. Okay. Or sabi ko nga, pwede nyo tingnan dito para ma-check nyo. Dito lang yan. Ito po, correspond siya dito. Yung gitna, correspond siya doon. So, yung last, correspond siya doon. Okay? So, let's talk about triangle sum theorem. Ano ba itong theorem na to? It says that the sum of the 3 interior angles in a triangle is always 180. Okay? So, ito, na-encounter nyo na to ng grade 7 na ang laging sum ng interior angles. Pag sinabing interior, yung mga angle na nasa loob. Ito, angle A, angle B, and angle C. Pag pinag-add daw natin yung tatlo, ang sum po niyan is 180. Okay? Is always 180 if it's a triangle. Okay. So, halimbawa po, meron akong angle A, angle B, and angle C. So, dapat pag pinagsama-sama natin, inad natin yung measure ng tatlong angles mo, dapat 180 degrees po yun. So, if I have angle B is equal to 70 degrees, your angle C is equal to 45 degrees. Okay? And then, pinapahanap sa inyo yung isang angle. So, paano natin ito kukunin? Okay. So, ang gagawin po natin, ito yung angle A mo, which is the unknown. Siya yung hahanapin. Your angle B and then your angle C, dapat pag inad natin siya, 180. So, we will have your angle B is 70 degrees and your angle C is 45 degrees. So, we will transpose. So, lipat natin ito, mag-minus 70. Ito, mag-minus 45. Or simply, yung 180, kasi ang kabuuan nito is 180, right? So, yung 180, i-minus mo yung 70, i-minus mo yung 45. Yung matitira, yun. Okay? So, ang kinalabasan, your x is equal to 65 degrees. So, ibig sabihin, yung angle A mo is 65 degrees. Ayan siya. Okay? So, pag inad natin si 65 plus 45 plus 70 plus 45, that is equal to 180. So, ganun lang po palagi. The sum of the 3 interior angles is always 180. And that is the triangle sum theorem. Next. So, I have here 2 congruent triangles. Now, triangle PQR, so this is your triangle PQR, is congruent to triangle TSU. Okay? Now, sabi rito, these 2 triangles are congruent. Ang tanong, what is the length of segment SU? Paano mo kukunin yung length ni segment SU? So, balikan mo to. Since these two triangles are congruent, tingnan mo ngayon dito sa name nila. Ito lagi. Ito ang ako pag tinuturo ko talaga to kahit face to face. Ito yung ginagawa kong guide. Okay? Ito yung lagi kong tinuturo. So, si SU, ang pinapahanap na side, na length, paano natin to kukunin? Wala ngang given. Ito lang ang may given. Since these 2 triangles are congruent, tingnan natin kung saan congruent si SU. So, ito si SU, yung last 2 letters mo. So, ibig sabihin yung last 2 letters mo rin dito. Doon siya this segment corresponds to this segment. Kasi last two eh. Yung last two letters mo, so last two letters din dito. So, segment SU corresponds to segment QR. Tingnan natin yung QR. So, ang QR mo is 4 inches. So, therefore, segment SU is equal to 4 inches. Okay? So, dito lang tayo tingin. Next, I have here two triangles, congruent triangles. Now, ang question is, what is the measure of angle U? So, given that triangle SIT is congruent to triangle RUN, so these two triangles are congruent. Ngayon, ang tinatanong is the measure of angle U. Ito po. Okay. So, paano natin makukuha yung measure ni angle U? Ganong walang binigay na measures. Hindi kagaya nito. Nakuha natin dahil may given. So, dito, pinapakuha si angle U without giving the other measures of the angles. So, paano natin kukunin? Gamitin mo yung idea ng corresponding angles. Okay. So, si angle U, tingnan mo dito, correspond siya kay angle I. So, correspond siya kay angle I. So, kunin natin yung measure ni angle I. Kasi pag nakuha natin ito, ibig sabihin, ganun din yung measure ni angle U. Why? Kasi these two are corresponding angles, therefore they are congruent. Okay? So, kunin natin yung measure ni angle I. So, paano natin makukuha? Diba? Ang triangle is equal to 180. So, 180 minus 60 is 120. And 120 minus 55, that is 65. Okay? So, therefore, this is 65. Your angle U is also 65. Okay? So, kung ano yung measure ni angle I mo, ganun din si angle U kasi they are corresponding angles. So, the measure of angle U is equal to 65 degrees. So, this is the idea of or the concept of triangle sum theorem. Next, let's talk about the included side and the included angle of a triangle. So, pag sinabi nating included side and included angle of a triangle, included side, ito yung when the vertices of the two angles are the endpoints of the segment. So, ang tawag natin doon, included side. And then, when the sides of an angle are the two sides of the triangle, then the angle is said to be the included angle of the two sides. Okay? Parang ang haba, no, kung iintindihin natin. So, punta tayo sa example kasi mas madaling maintindihan kapag may example. So, I have here triangle ABC. Okay? So, paano natin makukuha yung included side and included angle? So, tinatanong dito, identify the included side of angle A and angle C and the included angle of segment AB and segment BC. From the word included, ibig sabihin kasama siya nung dalawang angles. Okay? Included, kasama siya dun sa dalawang segments. Okay. So, dito muna tayo sa included side. So, asa ng angle A mo? Ito. This is your angle C. Okay. So, from these two endpoints, alin dito yung meron si angle A and angle C. So, ito po siya. Okay? It contains angle A and angle C. So, therefore, ang included side natin dito is segment AC. Okay, next. Included angle naman. So, i-highlights muna natin si segment AB and si segment BC. So, ano yung included angle nila? Ano yung angle na nabuo from these two sides? So, we have angle B. So, therefore, this is angle B. Now, ipasok ko na rin yung concept ng opposite sides and opposite angles. So, pag sinabi nating what is the opposite angle of segment is AC, okay? So, that is angle C. Okay, so what is the opposite angle of segment AB? So pag sinabing opposite, yung katapat. Okay, so what is the opposite angle of segment AB? So yung katapat, the answer is angle C. Another, what is the opposite side naman? What is the opposite side of angle A? So this is your angle A. Anong opposite side niya? Okay, segment BC. Okay, so that is the idea of opposite side and opposite angles. Included side and included angle. So let's try. Okay, so you may pause the video before you can see the answers. Mag-try tayong sumagot. Okay? So ito po ang ating mga sagot. You may share your scores below sa ating comment section. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell para updated kayo for more video tutorials. This is your guide in learning your math lessons, your Wow Math channel.